Good day, and now we will proceed to module number 6 in third quarter. So it's all about critiquing a literary selection based on structuralist or formalist, moralist, and Marxist approaches. So we will start on page number 1. So we have to know the objectives of this module: compare and contrast structuralist or formalist, moralist, and Marxist approach, identify lines or parts of the story essential for a specific approach, and lastly, decode truth and values using moralistic criticism. So for what I know, read the story below and answer the questions that follow. So after reading The Necklace, you will answer this question. It's 1 to 15. All of the answers are based on what you have understood from the text. So it's okay if there are things that you do not know, because later we will discuss it. So for what's in, recall the poem Annabel Lee, then answer the following questions. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Remember that Annabel Lee is the text we used in our previous module. So you can go back to the previous module, to the video that we have, which is all about the module number 5. So you will just also choose the correct letter of the answer. So for what's new, The World is an Apple by Alberto S. Florentino. So it's about Mario and his family. So what happened to them, how poverty struck them. So you will also know if you read this. So you will answer, who is Tita? Why did Mario lose his job? What does the title of the story imply? Who is to be blamed in the turnout of the story? How would the story likely progress after Mario went back to stealing? So you will answer this processing question based on what you have understood. So for critiquing a literary selection, it's possible to criticize a literary selection without being too judgmental. Yes, it is possible with the help of literary approaches. But now, we will just be particular and have emphasis with structuralist or formalist, then moralist and Marxist. So the first approach is structuralist or formalist by Ferdinand de Saussure, father of structuralism. If you will search about his name, there are many pronunciation of his surname probably. And also Roman Jacobson, the bridge between Russian formalism and structuralism. So Ferdinand and Roman Jacobson, they are really prominent in things related in English language. So definition: formalism does not require any research. It emphasizes the value of a literature or literary text apart from its context. All critical approaches must begin here. Basically, it focuses on the elements of story, symbolism, figurative language, and structure. So when we say structuralist or formalist, it is really focusing on the value, focusing on what really matters. For example, a particular text about the story, then we will just really focus on the lesson, on the moral, but not with the grammar, with other convention. Because what we need to see are the elements of the story, the symbolism, the figurative language, and the structure. So therefore, when we say structuralist or formalist, it's all about focusing on the elements of the story. Are all elements present in the text? The symbolism, are all symbols used correctly? The figurative language, then the structure. So the moral or the lesson of the text really matter. The moral or the story really matters because it is the one which will give the impact to the readers. So that is structuralist or formalist. So all critical approaches must begin here, because if you will not have the complete elements of story, therefore it is not a story if you will not include the elements. So because all of the story should have these elements. So it is the formal or the format of what a story is. Then, The Moralist by Plato. If art does not teach morality and ethics, then it is damaging to its audience. And also by Aristotle, elements such as language, character, plot, thought, song, rhythm, and diction influence audience catharsis in the work. So moralism is most useful when considering themes of works. It doesn't view literature as an art apart from moral implications. It recognizes that literature can affect readers, that the message of a work is important. It asserts that the purpose of literature is to teach morality and to instill values. So from the word itself, moral, meaning the text, is you will identify, you will critique and analyze a particular text based on what moral will be gotten from that text. Is it really applicable from the present situation? For example, is that text really applicable to pandemic, like that? So you have to identify what are the morals or what are the lessons that we can get, and how these lessons will be applied in real life situations. Never are we even though they are young, they are adult, so still how these lessons will be applicable to our lives. Then for Marxists, it's about Karl Marx, which is about, we can hear it in our subjects such as Araling Panlipunan. And now that we are having the celebration of 500 years, Hawaii or Lapu-Lapu succeeded or achieved success during their times against the Spaniards. So Karl Marx postulates that the struggle between social classes defines the economic relations in a capitalist economy and will inevitably lead to revolutionary communism. So it's all about most of the time the poverty is really included in this kind of approach. So Marxism focuses on how power, money, and politics play its role in literary texts and literary societies. It focuses the way on which dominant or majority groups take advantage of those deemed as subordinate or minority. It implies the ways in which people are alienated from one another because of power, money, and politics. So from the word structuralist or formalist, so structure or formal for complete elements of the story. Then the moralist, meaning what are the lessons that we can get and we can apply to our real life. But when you say Marxist, it's about consideration of terms such as money, politics, and power. So how these things affect people. For example, how powerful people treated those people who are not really having enough power, or we can say poor, or they are not privileged with other things. So that is Marxist. So later we will identify the examples. So for a structuralist who is narrating or telling what is happening in the work, what is the plot, because these things we will focus on the elements, the settings, the character, the symbols, kind of language, meaning it is the really, we will go to the structure of a particular text. For example, who are the characters, what are the problems, the solutions, the setting, when it was written, and what are the things used to indirectly say the problem, the solution, or the issue of the text. So like the necklace, the characters there are included. The symbolism is the necklace as deception. That sometimes even though we are having, not all people who are wearing necklace are all rich, are all wealthy, but that is the symbolism of the necklace. So that is structuralism or structuralist or formalist, because there is a symbolism. So Ferdinand, also known in terms of semiotics, which is all about symbols and signs. Then for moralists, about the necklace also. So if we will use structuralist or formalist in analysis from the necklace, we will focus on the elements, on the symbolism or the figurative language used. But if we will use it in moralist, then what are the lessons that we can get? So, responsibility over replacing the lost jewelry. The elegant ball dress symbolizes the wealthy lifestyle of the character. Then, in contrast to the modest clothes she wears in ordinary life. So there are contrasts that we can see, that sometimes we pretend of what we have, of what we really have, and it leads us to do something which is not good, and all things will be paid off someday. So we should be careful. There are karmas, good karmas, bad karmas, and it's depending on how we deal with the situation in our life. So sometimes there are bad things happening in our life and we cannot avoid that, but we should not be bad, or we should not stop doing good things just because of the bad things. We should remain good despite of the bad things. Then for Marxist, also the necklace. So about the necklace is satisfaction in her life. She also believed it was an ill fate for her being born to a family of clerks despite her beauty. So the character is very beautiful. So the power, the money is really included or really considered in the story, the necklace. So if we will use the Marxist approach, we will focus on how power, money, politics affect people. So in the necklace, how the character or how the necklace affected the character. What is the effect? For example, did the character become more aggressive, good or bad, like that? So that is for Marxist. How money, politics, or power affect the characters or the situation, while in Moralist, we will focus to the lesson that we can get after enduring, after suffering the problem. Then Structuralist and Formalist, we will focus to the science, to the symbols, to the language, figurative language, and then the elements, which should be also observed in other approaches, because elements are really vital to make the story meaningful and really applicable for all. So we will go now to the what's more. For independent activity 1, match made in structure. So you will just choose here, for example, characters. What do you think is the statement here which is pertaining to characters, then to conflict, plot, setting, and theme? You will just choose among the letters. Then you will read The Dinner Party by Mona Gardner in order for you to identify the answers in independent assessment 1, the cross-form puzzle. So read the short story and use a structuralist or formalist approach, which is about the elements below to complete the crossword puzzle. So 2 type of conflict in the story. So man versus man, man versus himself, man versus society, like that. So because it's already discussed in our previous module. Then what's the occupation of the visiting American? So you will just complete it with the given clues. So Marx, my word. So we have Gloria, Mario, and Pablo, which is, we will use the Marxist or by Karl Marx. You will identify who are the characters being described. Has the power to entrepreneurship. Who is that? Gloria, Mario, Pablo, the employer, or Tita? However, we will identify if they are under bourgeoisie or proletariat. So when you say bourgeoisie, they are in the middle class, while proletariat, meaning they are the ones who are really working, meaning they somehow under the lower class. So we have the middle class and then the lower ones. So it's like rich and poor. Then for independent assessment number 2, a test of morals, you will read the sentence below and write the word pure if the statement depicts good morals, then word unpure if it's a bad moral. So you will analyze each of the number, each of the situation in each number. Then you will write pure if it's a good moral, then unpure if it's a bad moral. Then independent activity number 3, 3 moral truths will set you free. Decode the truth behind the following lines found in the story. Write the letter of your answer on a separate sheet. So you, after analyzing those lines from different characters, you will identify the moral of that character. So you will just choose among the letters if it's A, B, C, or D. Then for independent assessment 3, approaching destination, so read the following lines or parts taken from the 2 stories, then identify the literary approach to which they belong. Write the letter of your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So there are lines from stories or literary text, and you will identify if according to or based on these choices which are provided in each item. So definitely letter A, feminist, will not be the answer because we did not discuss it. So you will just choose among Marxist, Moralist, Structuralist, and Formalist. So for letter D, it's all about the figurative language, the symbolism, and the elements of the short story, the setting, the characters. Then when we say moralist, it is more on the values, moral, and the lesson of the story. And when we say Marxist, if there is an influence of power, money, or politics, then it will fall under Marxist. So you will just write the letter of the correct answer. For what I have learned, you will just simply answer these questions. Which among the three literary approaches contributed a great impact on your analysis? So why analysis? Analysis, it is plural. Analysis, singular. So if there are many analyses, then you will use with E. But if you will pertain to one only, then you will use I, analysis. So being a literary critic for a week, how does it change your reading style? How does it differ from usual reading? So if you will put in yourself, or you will treat yourself as a literary critic for a week, is there any change if you will read a particular text, or is it just the same? Or you will use the particular approaches that we have discussed? So what I can do, read the stories below, then identify the literary approach dominant in each story. So My Fathers Go to Court by Carlos Bolosan. We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers. How My Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife. Footnote to Youth. Then The Centipede. So you will just identify what is BE, what approach is used in each number. So definitely it's not letter A because I explained it a while ago. Then for assessment, it's 1 to 15. You will just choose among the choices A, B, C, or D based on what we have discussed. Then for additional activity, read and analyze the story with the help of literary approaches. You will be guided by questions below. So write your analysis on a separate sheet of paper. So love and time, after reading that, you will have the leading questions. So why did the author choose these words, happiness, sadness, richness, vanity, knowledge, time, and love, as characters? So did he employ symbolism? So you will answer it using the approach of structuralism or formalism. What enduring truths were hidden behind the events in the story? So about moralism, so what is the enduring truths? Meaning the reality behind those characters. So you will use moralism. So how did the other characters, especially richness, it involves money, treated love in the story? So you will use Marxism. If knowledge has deep wisdom, why didn't he help save love? So moralism, what is the knowledge? What is the morality behind that? Then another for symbolism, towards the end of the story, what must be the reason that only knowledge, time, and love were mentioned? For structuralism and formalism, because there is a symbolism behind that. So after that, I hope that you really learned something about how to critique a particular text. So it can be structuralist, formalist, or based on the elements and the figurative language, especially the symbolism, because it has deep meaning and it's not always the literal ones. Then when you say moralist, by knowing what is the value, the lesson, the moral of the story, we will focus on that and not literally from the grammar, not because of that, but we will much more focus on what we can learn and apply through in our society, in our daily living. Then for Marxist, it is the contribution or the impact of money, politics, and power to the life or to the story itself. So if you still have confusion or question, then you are free to ask your teacher, your English teacher, to have private message to her or to him. And that's for all.